Hello everyone, today we're taking a look at the RunCam Racer 4. This is both an analog, you see our connections there, and underneath this case we have our digital connection. It does come with the cable that you need. I've just got it in my quad that I've been flying it around. What else does it come with? A few things. First, the specs on the box. I'd like to show you guys those so you know exactly what those are. We've got our input from 5 to 36 volts, and it's a 1.8 millimeter lens. This is a wide angled lens. You can see down there it's 1280 by 720 at 60 frames per second, and analog it's 1000 TV lines. And when you're running it digital, it takes the typical input. So other than the box, what's it come with? Well, we get a little wiring map. You'll note right there it has the UART control, so you can wire it up to your flight controller, and you can control the camera settings from your radio, which is handy. Comes with a wiring harness for analog. As I mentioned, it comes with a cable for digital. Also comes with an extra backplate, mounting adapter, and a few extra screws. It weighs just a little over 6 grams. For your mounting, it's a 19 millimeter mounting pattern. From the lens to the back of the case is 21 millimeters. Looks like it's 23 millimeters from the lens to the back of the connector. Lens is 13 millimeters in diameter. Jumping right into the flight footage, just taken off, and you get to see all the different colors. This time of year, things are starting to dry out, so you might see a little bit more browns. That is how the grass does appear nowadays as we get out of the dog days of summer and into the fall. The leaves are starting to fall off the trees a little bit, so you'll see some scraggle from time to time. We cruise over to the neighbor's yard, Gary and Diane's. I think they have left for the final time. We brought in their trash bins just today. They've been texting us back and forth, and we've kind of been talking over the fence, and I do think that they were in town for the last time. So you guys have heard me talk about them. Great neighbors, had them for many, many years. Their kids grew up in their house. I hope that my kids do the same as we kind of go behind the tree and then we back out to get another different view. And I'm going to cruise around a little bit. We've got quite a bit of flight footage to look at, but I'm only going to play segments of each part of it because I don't think there's a high need to see the entire flight in all these different segments that I've got. I'm going to make some changes to the image, and you'll get to see the settings at that point, and then we'll come back out, we'll do another run with the digital, then you'll get to see the changes that I made. Maybe you would have made different changes, but these were changes that I made to get some idea of how the value impact changes how the camera responds to the view, and whether it's sharpness or hue or saturation or contrast or whatnot. You'll get to see those things and you can do your own comparison. You could also open up 2 browser tabs, or if you're working on dual monitors. I know on mobile it's kind of tough. I do have a little bit of my mount in view. It's actually worse on the second time around. I didn't notice it when I was flying it, but when I was reviewing the footage, I did notice it. It's also very windy. We have had several days of wind. It was actually quite hot. And then we had, let's see, it was through the holiday weekend, and then it was hot, and then it cooled off pretty quickly. And now we're barely getting into the upper 60s, and it has rained for the last 2 days. So kind of strange weather pattern that's typical for fall around here. Nothing reliable. But we've cruised around a little bit. We've got to see the red truck. We got to see the flowers and the trees and the leaves and the grass and the houses and the bricks and the straight lines and the curved lines. Let's take a look at the settings so that you can see all the different settings that are available, and then we'll come back out and we'll take another look at the digital side of this camera after I've made those setting changes. Here we are in the settings, and this is still a digital recording, so you'll get to see everything in the same widescreen format that I was viewing it in within the DJI goggles. We're going to scroll through these things. Nothing necessarily unusual here, but you might want to, when we get into the image, you might want to take note of those values, how much I changed those values, and the impact that it had when we head back outside. You can see that it's got different picture adjustments that we would expect to see with brightness, contrast, sharpness, hue, and color gain. We can also flip the camera, so for our mounting purposes, if it works out better to have the connector on the bottom, you can flip the camera over and the image will still appear upright. You can see right now I'm making some of those value changes to sharpness, and we'll work into a few others as I kind of just guessing on what I might want to see, and then you can compare my guess on value changes to what I actually change when we head back outside to the front, same day. So it's probably about a half hour later by the time I get back inside, probably talk to the kids a little bit and then head back out. It'll be a half hour later. And now we can jump into that footage that we've made those changes. So we're back into that flight after making those value changes, and you can see the impact, maybe good, maybe bad. Kind of depends on your point of view. Many of you have a much discernible eye. I kind of say that every time. I have certain cameras that I like, and I find that other people don't like them. sometimes. Sometimes cameras are just so good that everybody likes them, or it's a tough decision between two of your top runners. Right now we're looking at this probably for weight savings for the most part. So you'd be comparing it to another camera that might do digital as well as analog, or you might just be comparing it to a lower weight camera. This camera comes in at $37.99 for a digital camera. That seems like an about right price, but you tell me, what would you pay for a camera like this that can do both digital and analog? And are you looking at cameras that do both digital and analog, and why? That's something that's important for me, because I really don't know why you would. When I look at the cameras, I always think, why would you buy a digital camera that also does analog? The only thing I can come up with is that you buy it for its analog performance, and then you can grow into digital maybe as your budget allows. Maybe. That's just a guesstimate. Maybe there's another purpose. Maybe you can use one camera across. Maybe you have a fixed wing that's got digital on it, and you've got an analog quad. Maybe. Again, I'm very much just speculating here. We've flown in and out of the shadows quite a bit. That's something that I like to do because I think that's a pretty valid feature for FPV cameras. How does it cope with looking through the shadows, and how does it look into the shadows when you're outside the shadows? We go back over to the garage and we look at those straight lines so you can see if there's any fisheye. I think I did that on the first flight as well. Still pretty windy. I think I caught a bit of a calm breeze, but as I go up the street, you can definitely tell when I come back down the street towards our house that's the direction of the wind, and it really picks up steam. You know, it doesn't take much nose down to really get some additional speed. As we head that way, you'll probably notice I get a little bit of the wobbles. It throws my tune off. I think this one isn't tuned for this camera though. I think I did retune it, but I may have retuned it for the digital and the Vista, because originally this quad had a full-sized air unit in it before I switched it over to Vista. And then I, of course, also had a Caddx Nebula on it. It was in it as well. But we circled, we saw a minute or two of footage. That's probably sufficient for our view and those changes. Let's jump into the analog footage. So this is my other quad that has the RunCam DVR built into it, and I do my cloth test by covering it up. Typical analog test that I do. We go about 1.5 feet, and then we stretch the arm out just about as far as I can. I'm also fussing with my rag there a little bit as I'm trying to keep it blocking as much of the sunlight as I can at that furthest extension of my arm, and we blot the sun directly into the lens a few times. We're going to set it down, and then we're going to go for a fly. Got the prop spinning up, and now we're going to lift off and go for a cruise around the yard. So you kind of have to grade this camera out more than one aspect. You know, you have the ability to have an impact on your digital side as well as on your analog side. I did factory reset the settings before I did this analog flight, so you get to see it in its factory default settings. If we play this out long enough, you'll also notice that another one of my neighbors, Larry, who is an engineer, he actually commutes about an hour away, and he and his daughter, who went to Florida State on a volleyball scholarship, are both engineers, so she followed in his footsteps. But apparently he or she, I'm not sure which, he talks so fast. You guys think I talk fast. That guy really talks fast. He does some work with airfoils and other airplane type engineering, and he was very much interested in the quads. We've talked before, but it has been probably about a year since the last time we caught up about quads, and he was asking me about various things. He's fairly attuned to the FAA. We talked about Amazon getting their clearance for drone deliveries and kind of the speculation of whether that would really come to fruition and we would see flying delivery vehicles. Talked a lot about props, prop design. He talked mainly from an airplane standpoint, and I was just kind of talking about mini quads or micro quads in my case. You see him standing over there, and we're kind of chatting a little bit. Really interesting guy, really intelligent guy. I enjoy talking to him. I finish up the flight, taking a little bit of a cruise around, and apparently I think he's got a son-in-law or a nephew that also does FPV. At least it sounded like, and he talked about how this other person got too close to him when he was flying it around. He didn't get hurt or anything, but he said it had prop guards on it. I'm wondering if it might have been a DJI product, or if it might have been something like a SEMA X5C, which was a quad I started out on all those many years ago. Those and others like it come with prop guards. That's a pretty good view of our analog footage. We've got to see our settings and everything. Let's head back to the desk as Larry and I finish up our conversation. So what do you think? Again, I'd like to reiterate, why would you look at a camera that does both digital and analog? What are your reasonings for looking at it? What's the benefit of it? What do you think of the price point at $37.99? Is this something that you're interested in? What did you think of the image that it presented, both digital and analog? Very much interested. This is your opportunity to be heard by leaving a comment. The manufacturers, as I've said oftentimes, I do think they're reading the comments and then they make changes thereafter. I think they also watch the videos on a regular basis. They may not always get back to me on it, and sometimes I do see them commenting back to others who have left a comment on component videos and quad videos in general. So make yourself heard. Let them know what you think. And if you have any comments, questions, suggestions, or otherwise, please let me know in the comment section below. I appreciate your time, and thanks for watching.